Greetings in Jesus Christ, in Jesus' name. The conference we are attending today is about Jesus Christ and the dividing war of race and God's mission. It's so important today, even in our nation, as we observe and as we experience the divisions among ourselves and the divisions nationwide, and the dividing war is so high at this point. Now, the topic that has been given to me is reclaiming Christian faith in an age of deadly difference. And as a Rwandan, I will take example of a Rwandan healing journey. My name is Ebralie Mwizerwa, and I am originally from Rwanda, a survivor of a genocide in 1994. And it's been a pleasure for me to be asked to talk about the journey of healing and reconciliation for Rwandan society. Hopefully, it will play a key role, or it will be a good example of how we can all be reclaiming our faith, our Christian faith, in this age today in America. Racial or ethnic differences, when given space, are very destructive and are a hub for satanic manipulation and lies. It caused close to 1 million Rwandans to lose their lives and brought the Rwandan Church to its knees. Greetings, dear friends. It's been a long journey for me to get here because God wanted me to be in this land, in this nation. But it's not been a straight highway. It's been with the ups and downs of wars and terrible genocide that happened in my country. Rwanda, where I come from, is a nation with, at the time, 12 million people. It's a nation that is not necessarily, or looking at the surface, not divided at all, or not with many differences, especially when you look at the people. The people look the same. The people are not different. It's not even about being white or black. It's just a people. People speaking the same language, people with same culture, people with same eating habits, people residing in the same context. But the devil is a liar and played a very big role in Rwandans destroying themselves and killing each other in a way that we had never seen before. My own family, my whole family, we lost so many people. We lost friends in our neighborhood. We lost neighbors. We lost family members. It's been a long, long journey for us to be surviving and to get here. We landed here in 2000. My children and I are so grateful. My husband was here, and so it's been a very long journey, but all in all, we thank God that He made it possible for us to come and to be hosted and to be loved by the First Presbyterian Church in Nashville. I would always say that the church has always been my go-to, my number one go-to. I always say that church people, members of the congregation, without a spiritual transformation, are prone to evil doing, and as a member of a congregation and as a member of a church in Rwanda, I have seen people turning to each other in a way that is not godly. Even in this land, I have seen that. I have seen that people who are claiming to be Christians have gone to ahead and abused other people of different ethnic background. Even people with the same ethnic background would abuse each other with a heart that is not transformed and changed. I have now lived in the United States for the last 20 years, and I have never seen a time like this. I hope we are all learning. I am optimistic that God is working His way to bringing the kingdom for us. I know per experience, having lived through that terrible genocide in Rwanda in 1994, that God is up to something through the storms of racism that we see around us to eradicate systemic racism in our nation. But do we reclaim faith in a time like this? Soon after the genocide, the missionaries who preached the gospel in Rwanda questioned our Christianity. They questioned their way of doing. They questioned their way of preaching the gospel. They questioned how we were receptive to the gospel. They questioned how Rwandans embraced the gospel. However, in my mind right now, I am like, they should also question themselves. They should have questioned how the dividing war have mounted to the level where Rwandans could kill each other with the gospel having been preached. But it's also a question you can ask yourself today. Is the systemic racism seen in this nation siding side by side with the gospel? Is there room in the gospel where Jesus seems to be different from our way of doing things today, or even from our way we have been doing church? Can the church sit back and revise their methods or revise their way of doing church or their way of preaching the gospel? Missionaries who came in our nations, mostly in Africa, they came side by side with colonizers. And in many cases, they were so intertwined with the the colonial administrations. And actually, when you look in the history of Rwanda, we put so much blame on the colonizers as dividers, and maybe that what churches should have corrected. But missionaries did not correct that. Yes, they did good things for us. They brought us churches, they brought us schools, they brought us hospitals. They did some really good things. But as far as transforming our hearts, they were so far away from us transforming ourselves into new creations. Rwandans believed to be 85% Christians, 15 of them only traditional worshippers, and a tiny, tiny minority of Islam. All that to say that the 85% Christianity disappeared when we all killed each other. And now, everyone, even the one who did not kill, had been scattered here and there. And it's like, where are we? All our mainline churches, Presbyterians, Anglicans, Methodists, Baptists, etc., they have all been denominationally divided. We are all confessing Christian faith. We are all confessing Christian faith, However, our confession could not believe that what happened in 1994 was a part of any gospel that we can think of. And I don't think anything that is happening around us, even now, is a part of any gospel. There are so many things we question about the global church in 1994, especially knowing that we are brothers and sisters of a bigger body, the body of Christ. We questioned, where are our brothers? Especially when now came evacuation and we see some of our neighbors being evacuated. Why are we still a part of the global church? We were, but that church was not visible at that time for us. Only Jesus was visible because his hand of protection was on us and he protected us even in a way that we could not have believed. And that's why some of us are here. This time of a lockdown in America reminded me of a terrible time of war where even your neighbor could be killed and you won't know that he's gone. When we were on a lockdown, it made me think, what happened to my neighbor? Because I'm just here. I don't know what's going on at my neighbors. I don't know what's going on. No one knew what was going on with me. Thankfully, we had phones. But in Rwanda in 1994, we did not have phones. We only had God. We only had the living God with us. And I remember my children praying and asking God to intervene. And we made Psalm 23 our anchor. I just pray that Psalm 23 will be your anchor even in this time as you remember to pray and ask God, what part should I play in the systemic racism, in what's going on for God's mission in this nation? The question becomes how to reclaim the faith after the genocide. It was not an easy thing. And I also think how to reclaim faith in this time in America is not easy, but it's possible. I want just you to know that reclaiming faith and being the body of Christ right now, right here, is possible, but it requires God's, it requires us as Christians to live out our faith. You probably have been living out your faith, and it's possible, but there are so many things that we did in after the genocide to kind of really help us, number one, get in terms with what had happened, because some of us did not understand. Some of us did not understand what happened. But again, like Pharaoh in Egypt and the Egyptians in the past, they never believed that their nation could be destroyed. They never believed what happened with the plagues and other things. God can work out some things. God can bring situations to us to awaken our minds and our spirit. The question then becomes, how do we reclaim faith after genocide? How do we reclaim faith after these events of systemic racism, after so much killings that has even come into our nations? I will not begin to tell you how, George Floyd, Breonna, and others who have been victims in this land and many others before. Church had to deal with, in Rwanda, the church has had to deal with hatred that had existed for generations. And maybe that the situation of the church in America. When I arrived in America, a part of me was, why is there a black church and why is there a white church? Maybe the question is not today. The question has existed and we are coming to terms with it. How do we tackle that? That has been even way, way back before us. The statement is so true that the church had to go on its knees. To reclaim faith, prayer is essential. To reclaim faith, being real and coming to terms with what's going on, admitting mistakes, committed, and repenting of them is the way to go. Opening up space for genuine conversation between parties. And I think this is an avenue for the church to really, really help the two parties to come together if they are willing. And the church had to make sure that the reconstruction is well done. And I think we cannot move forward if one step has been missed. If a step has been missed, the church will need to go back, pretty much like players of a soccer game had to go back to where the mistake has been made. And that is the hard part. The church in America has to go back to where the mistake has been made, which steps have not been made well. Being real and coming to terms, admitting mistakes is not easy, because you have the pulls from either side, and especially when you are among the privileged, you don't want to leave that comfortable place. Open up space for genuine conversation between parties. Make reconstruction a way to encourage the dialogue. Reconciliation is good, but it cannot be accomplished if we don't rediscover the trust among ourselves, particularly with neighbors, or particularly with your other church members, or particularly with brothers and sisters of the other race. Peace and reconciliation has been a progression in our country, and churches have played a key role in bringing about reconciliation. They opened up a dialogue for people to talk openly between themselves. The unit as a church, the families, the councils, the commissions at the national levels, there was a political will in the country that helped Rwandans to reconcile each other. There was a political will that opened up a platform for reconciliation, even though I always have believed that the church has a mandate to bring about reconciliation, but the political will is needed. Maybe that is what a church can also broker between the society and the government. Mobilization at every level of a society, small churches, smaller units. It all started by probably a group, not just a mass, a group of people. And your church, your congregation can start a movement to bring about the kingdom and the reconciliation in this land. Family level units, individual level units, government levels. We may not wait for that government levels, but units, individuals can begin reconciling themselves, reconciling with the living God, and attain the higher level of reconciliation, addressing issues, siding with the wounded. And I think it's what Christ wants us. Christ wants us to be siding with the wounded, siding with the least of these. I think we don't need to forget what we are here for. We are here to be salt and light. And it's been important, and it has to be important for us to focus on our mission. There are dangers and there are challenges of reconciliation. When we engage in reconciliation, there are dangers and challenges. There are different opinions, even between members of the same ethnic background, or even between the members of the same church. There are different opinions. There are some who may feel like it's not about me, it doesn't concern me. They are so indifferent. Reconstruction and repair. Rwandans had to return things that had been stolen from the other ethnic background. Rwandans had also to build the other part, especially the part of the victims. Rwandans had to go beyond the wounds, especially when the wounds are too deep to heal. Those are all challenges, and you need to know those challenges to make sure you are making the steps that are appropriate and appropriately building and not destroying what you have already built. Now, the church has a prime role to bring reconciliation and forgiveness. The heart is the place where healing takes place, and only God touches the heart. The church has the secret and the medicine and the power for the wounded from the world. We are light and salt, and if the church spreads light, the darkness goes away. A friend of ours, one of the African theologians, said, "Where people are bruised, the church supplies the balm. Where people are battered, the church brings healing. Where people are buffeted by the scourge, the church soothes. Where people are burned, the church provides a home." And it's by Tokumbo Adeyemo. You probably know the author of this statement. My observation: I was shocked to see divisions in the church in America. I was shocked in recent days by conversations around race in America, and to also discover that the same systemic racism that is seen in the society is also seen in the church. I was shocked by racism being practiced even at all levels in our churches, and had never made it us uncomfortable. If racism is not making us uncomfortable, we will not heal the wounded. But I think everyone following this conference is uncomfortable with what's going on in our nation. Covering it up is no longer possible. Dreaming together and feeling the self-worth of bringing the reconciliation is the way to go. In concluding, I would say, I thank God for the conference like this. I thank God for the special fight that the church is being involved in to bring about reconciliation in this land. The road ahead is narrow and long. The journey may be too rough, but the Lord is calling us to do it, and He will be with us. I am so thankful that the examples of Rwanda, the examples of South Africa, the examples we have are there to teach us. And if anyone wants to make the journey to Rwanda to learn about the steps, I am glad the church in America is stepping up in its role to heal the nation. I am glad my Presbyterian family is taking the lead to heal this land. In God, all things are possible. The church should buckle up and bring light. Wherever there is darkness, pray that the church and its members will be bold to denounce the systemic racism. Pray that all injustices will be revealed and that the victims and the powerless will find brothers and sisters to come to their side. Be bold as individuals. Allow the Spirit to lighten the dark spots in our history. I'm saying to the church to be bold. Be bold and denounce injustices. Be bold and be advocates. Be bold as a church and just be what God intended for you, for as a church, to represent. The church in the world has always been a church and has always been a go-to in times of trouble like this. But also, a church, we know a church as a place to be who we are. We want you to seek justice. God has called the church to participate with Him in the ministry of reconciliation. Seek justice and pursue it, He recommended to His people in Deuteronomy. One of the things that prevents us from being just is a sin that lies in us, and we really need to make sure we know. As individuals, listen to your heart. There is a still voice right now inside of you. Listen to what it tells you. The voice is the same in both blacks and whites. It was the same in both Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda. It's a voice that it tells you what's wrong and what's right. Listen to that voice. Research on what is going on what you hear around you. Do not ignore it. Do not be ignorant of what's going on or of our history. Find a genuine friend to talk to. In many cases, I will actually ask each one of you who's listening to this to find a friend from a different race. If you don't have one, make an effort to have one, and talk to that friend. You may not even talk about what's currently going on, But find a friend to talk to. Know the other side. Know the other race. Do not just prejudices that other race, but find a friend. Get closer and closer to that friend. Know them very well. As a group, open up a discussion. Break the silence. It's in conversations that we even can know what is on the other side of a fence. Do not allow walls to mount to the level you cannot hear your other side. As a congregation, begin steps to reconcile the history of what's going on today. It started maybe a long time ago. Make sure you know what the beginning is and where you can make steps to rebuild and reconcile. In Rwanda, like I said, there had to be repairs and reconstruction. People had to make terms of what had just happened and bring about reconciliation of both sides, knowing that there have been destruction, there have been hurts, there have been victims of a situation. In every situation, there is always victims and there is always perpetrators. You may not have been that perpetrator, but now to bring about reconciliation, now to bring about justice, you really need to know what happened. As a congregation, begin to make those big steps. And I think congregations are made of individuals. If individuals are changed and individuals are understanding, and groups have already been discussing the issues, it's going to be easy. But you need a platform, and churches, congregations are there to offer that platform. Let me talk specifically to my brothers and sisters who are white or black. There is nothing wrong and nothing you did to be that. God created us different for His own purpose. And we are not superior or inferior. You need to find your self-worth and you need to find yourself in the kingdom. You owe respect to each other. I know for sure I owe respect to any of my brothers. Young, old, I owe them respect because they are created in God's image, and there is a part of them that a part of God that is in them that I cannot find anywhere else. If I don't find it, I'm missing on some of God's aspects. Make steps closer and closer to close the gaps that exist between us. As a church, like I said, be bold. Denounce injustices. You are agents of reconciliation. You should offer the platform that is needed. Individuals may not have a platform. Politics may not offer that platform. Governments may not offer that platform. But as a church, as powerful as the church is in this country, they should offer a platform. The church should remove barriers that exist within the church. Within the church itself, there are barriers. Those barriers need to be removed. Church be an advocate for peace. Do not be a bystander. For the church being a bystander and being involved in all that is going on currently, it will take some measures, maybe some decisions. The church in Rwanda exactly had to go on its knees to ask for forgiveness, even for mistakes the church itself has not committed. The church has to offer that as a platform. In this country, churches are very strong. But you know what? It doesn't mean that you can camp on the power that the church has and not use it. There is someone who needs to use that power. The church has to be bold and courageous and denounce the injustices. The church has to be the advocate and not a bystander. Bring the prophetic voice to this nation. There is a need for a prophetic voice, and the church is the one to offer that voice. At the end of it all, we should come up with a plan as individuals and as a church and as congregations. I invite you all to find a friend. I invite you all to make a resolution to be a part of a group that is a group that has what it takes for you to move forward. I invite you as a church to consider steps and make sure you don't miss steps. Exactly. Because you need to have those in place to make sure you are moving steadily, step by step, to reach the reconciliation that is needed on an individual level or as a national level. Thank you.